Hello, BookTube, and belated Happy Independence Day to my fellow Americans. Sorry about no videos yesterday. 4th of July is always busy for me, and yesterday was no exception. I hoarded what little time I had here with Frida Bean, and that left no time, virtually no time for anything else, for writing or reading or video making. But I'm back now with some mail, and it's a surprisingly healthy amount of mail, considering that I was kind of expecting that UPS and FedEx and DHL and the U.S. Postal Service would sort of take today off. I mean, the Friday in between a major federal holiday and a weekend, I really wasn't expecting much in the way of mail, but there's quite a bit. So let's go through it and see if we can find anything of interest, anything squeal-worthy, so close to Independence Day. I wonder. You notice one thing about American Independence Day that has been almost completely missing this year has been books about that subject. Yes, we had the new Rick Atkinson, but where, for instance, are the new Founding Father biographies? Where are those new books this year? There's one coming up by Alan Taylor, The Education of Thomas Jefferson, which is really, really good. But what about all the others? And battle studies and independence studies and whatnot? Maybe they're coming. But anyway, let's see what... okay. All right. This is out already, or darn close to it. This is this is a debut that I think we've seen on this channel before. This is Stay and Fight by Madeline Fitch. Rather ostentatiously double consonanted, and the blurb here by Bonnie Jo Campbell is, if Carolyn Shute and Larry Brown and Carson McCullers had a love child, it might be Madeline Fitch's brutal and brilliant debut novel. And in that, and in the pub sheet material, her surname is ostentatiously lowercase, even though that is incorrect. And I'm not really sure how Carolyn Shute, Larry Brown, and Carson McCullers could have a love child. but that's okay. Bad critics write like that, but Mary Jo Campbell is not primarily a critic. So Madeline Fitch's novel, A Funny and Fierce debut, has taken booksellers by storm, drawing comparisons to the very writers who have praised its originality, wit, and wisdom. Fitch, here it's not only her surname, but the beginning of a sentence, all done wrong. It's still lowercase. Ponders essential questions about what it means to be free, what constitutes a family, a mother, and what truly makes the land we own our own in this fearless tale of environmental injustice, rural living, and family. And also pretension, because you want to rewrite English because it's part of your personality. Well, you know me. My personality is that I have a lowercase surname. That's my personality. So you know me. And if you tell me that I can't do that, then you're a patriarchal Nazi. But this is a debut, and I really like debuts. I love them, but I haven't got to this yet. And a couple of readers that I know have, and have fairly liked it. So, and it's the actual pub date on it is July the 9th. I don't know that that's very strict, but that is so close that means that, absent anything else in this collection, I really need to get to this first. I really need to do this afternoon. So let's see what this next one is. Okay, this looks like some sort of horror thriller type thing. It's by Sarah Lultz, and it's called Missing Person. And it comes out in September. Will light be any better if I hold it like that? Is that any better? I don't know. In 2014, Stephen King raved about the author's The Three. In 2015, the New York Times' Marilyn Stasio, who we've seen in our tours of the Sunday New York Times, praised Day 4. And this September, this author returns with another psychologically gripping thriller that follows a group of amateur detectives infiltrated by a sadistic killer whose case they're investigating. Reclusive Irish bookseller Sean Ryan has always believed that his Uncle Teddy died in a car accident in the mid-90s. Then he learns the truth. Teddy fled the Catholic, deeply conservative County Wicklow for New York 20 years ago, and Sean's family are refusing to reveal why they lied about his death. Okay, props to the publicity sheet writer for realizing that family is plural. Not many people do that. They see one word without S's at the end, they assume singular. Although this pub sheet will not have any surprises for any of those of us who read the made-up stories, because of course one of the main takeaways that you will get from reading the made-up stories is that no one in the history of the world has ever actually died of a car accident. No one ever has. That has never happened. All of them have been intricately orchestrated actual murders. So this reclusive bookseller is a little bit redundant. Sean attempts to track Teddy down. He finds no sign of him in New York or anywhere else until he's contacted by Chris Guzman, a woman who runs a website dedicated to matching missing persons cases with unidentified bodies. Chris and her team of cold case obsessives have connected Teddy with the notorious boy in the dress case, believed to be one of a series of gay men murdered by the same killer. But who are these old case fanatics, and how do they know so much about a case that has stumped the police for decades? Okay, that does sound interesting. That really does. Despite the, Marilyn Stasio is a wonderful old hack, but she'll praise anything whose first sentence pleases her. And I don't trust the critical judgment of Stephen King, or if he had good critical judgment, he would even once, in a career of 50 years, have written a good book. But that description does sound really good. The author is a novelist and screenwriter with a fondness for the macabre. She's the author of The White Road, Day 4, The Three, and lives in Wales with her family and other animals. So what about you? Have any of you read The White Road, Day 4, or The Three? I could swear I remember The White Road. I could swear I remember that. I may actually have read that. That, I guess, would have been her debut. But anyway, this comes out in early September, and it does sound intriguing. So let's move on here. Let's see what this next one is. Oh, okay. All right. No publicity sheet on this one, but I believe this is also a debut. This is Wyoming by J.P. Gritton. See that? I don't know how we're going to do for lighting here. I'll have to figure that out. And also for resolution. You're all very patient with me. A lot of you have said that you actually expect my tech problems to be worse than they are, considering my extreme decrepitude. But I'm actually filming this on my MacBook rather than my phone. So I'm expecting that it's going to be a little less sharp in focus. You tell me. If it's distracting, I can go back to the phone. So this comes enthusiastically blurbed. What does it tell me? That is the title, or the cover. That is kind of a nice cover. What have we got here? At the tail end of the 1980s, and Shelley Cooper is in trouble. He's broke, he's been fired from his construction job, and his ex-wife has left him for their next-door neighbor and a new life in Kansas City. The only opportunity on his horizon is 50 pounds of his brother's high-grade marijuana, which needs to be driven from Colorado to Houston and exchanged for a lockbox full of cash. The delivery goes off without a hitch, but getting home with the money proves to be a different challenge altogether. Fueled by a grab bag of resentments and self-punishment, Shelley watches things go from bad to worse and maybe good enough. J.P. Gritton's portrait of a hapless aspirant at odds with himself and everyone around him is both tender and ruthless, and his debut novel considers the possibility of redemption in a world that grants forgiveness grudgingly, if at all. Okay, so once again, I want to point out, okay, J.P. Gritton's awards, he's won a number of awards, and his stories have appeared or are forthcoming in Black Warrior Review, Greensboro Review, New Ohio Review, Southwest Review, Tin House, and elsewhere. Okay, you aspiring authors out there. First of all, when you get to that line, I know that you've seen it in many author biographies, but I'm telling you, it sounds terrible. Don't use that line. Have appeared or are forthcoming. Leave out the are forthcoming. I know you're proud of everything you write, and every notch, every bit of credit in a bio note feels like gold. Anytime you can expand, you can lengthen that bio note at all, feels great. But don't do it. Okay? The journal could go belly up. Or they might misplace your story, or they might sit on it for a TLS length of time. Now, instead, just say where your work has appeared. That's all. You got a debut novel. That's impressive. You don't need to do that. And Wyoming is his first novel, and he appears, despite the cloth cap, he appears fairly young. And so, once again, I'd be willing to bet that he spent most of his life, if not all of it, in the age of the internet. And yet, once again, we see a debut novelist, or a novelist at all, who has set a novel very consciously in a time before the internet, before cell phones. And there's a whole swath of them these days that do that, and I think they do it to save themselves trouble. To save themselves, to allow for the complications and ignorances that not having those technologies made universal. And I don't agree with, if that's true, I'm not saying that's true in this guy's case, but I don't agree with, it's happened so often that it can't be that no author has that motivation, especially in murder mysteries. And if that is true, if that is your motivation to save yourself trouble, you're in the wrong line of work. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see an author who I don't believe actually consciously remembers the 1980s. It'll be interesting to see how he reconstitutes them. Although I can tell you right now, what Shelley Cooper's main problem in life is. It's that he was given a girl's name and decided for some odd reason to keep it when it cost $50 at the courthouse to change it. So that's where his trouble is coming from right there, is that when he's in a crowded dance hall and somebody yells out Shelley, he has to turn around and say, yeah? Anyway, let's see what this next one is. It's in a priority mail envelope, so it might be coming from one of you. It's becoming a theme here, is that I'm getting presents from the rest of you. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Oh no. Okay, great. No. Okay, yes. These are books from the Martha's Vineyard Gazette, where I am the book reviewer. These are just things that are up on my docket now. The first one is by Fred Waitskin, who wrote Searching for Bobby Fischer, and it's called Deepwater Blues. And it's illustrated. It says it's illustrated. Yes, it is illustrated. That was the illustration that I turned to. But yeah, there are black and white illustrations all throughout here. How interesting. And isn't Searching for Bobby Fischer, okay, he's the author of Searching for Bobby Fischer, which I've heard before. And this book has a cover blurb by Gabriel Byrne. Those things are kind of impressive. Also, I love this book. I could not put it down. Mark Messier, hockey legend. All right, so what is this? Charismatic expat Bobby Little built his own funky version of paradise on the remote island of Rum Cay, a place where ambitious sports fishermen docked their yachts for fine French cuisine and crowded the bar to boast of big blue marlin catches while Bobby refilled their cognac on the house. Larger than life, Bobby was really the main attraction. A visionary entrepreneur, expert archer, reef surfer, bush pilot, master chef, seductive conversationalist. But after tragedy shatters the tranquility of Bobby's marina, tourists stop visiting and simmering jealousies flare among the island residents. When a cruel, different kind of self-made entrepreneur challenges Bobby for control of the docks, all hell breaks loose. As the cobalt-blue Bahamian waters run red with blood, a man who made Rum Cay his home will be lucky if he gets off the island alive. Oh, doesn't that sound good? That sounds very good. A novel with illustrations. That is comparatively rare. And I'm assuming that Fred Waitskin has some vineyard connection. I'm assuming that he does. But or the illustrator does, or something like that. But anyway, so that'll be. This is probably out already. And the next one, I don't think I am reviewing. I believe I'm going to be interviewing the author, and I think we've seen the book before. This is This Land Is Our Land by Suketu Mehta. Suketu Mehta, An Immigrant's Manifesto. Yeah, there are a few studies. I think we saw this already. There are a few studies that prompt more discussion and rancor these days than immigration. In this book, the renowned author Suketu Mehta offers a reality-based polemic that vitally clarifies the debate. Drawing on his own experience as an Indian-born teenager growing up in New York City and on years of reporting around the globe, Mehta subjects the worldwide anti-immigration backlash to withering scrutiny. As he explains, the West is being destroyed not by immigrants, but by fear of immigrants. Okay. Well, I actually read this. I think this came out in June. I believe this came out in June. Yes, it did. I read it and thought it was eloquent, really powerfully intelligent. But I would obviously read it again if I'm going to talk to the author. I'm going to read it again. Then we have a bunch of cardboard next, and it ends in a couple of boxes. So we'll see what we have there. Oh, fantastic. Okay, this has got to be a July release. Yes, this is July. This is coming right up. We've seen this already. This is Killer in the Carriage House by Sheila Connolly. How are we going to do this? Is that good? Killer in the Carriage House. The Victorian village murder mystery debuted with an accomplished mix of historical accuracy, humor, and appealing characters, throwing in a growing quintessential Victorian village full of atmospheric locale. And Sheila Connolly completely outdoes herself in the second novel in the series. And the first one was Murder at the Mansion, which I believe we saw on this channel. After 15 years away, Kate Hamilton never expected to end up back in her hometown of Asheboro, Maryland, full-time. And she definitely didn't expect to be leading the charge of recreating the town as a Victorian village and tourist attraction. You just remember that first one, of course, that is a plot enough for a story. Someone could easily write a great novel about that, but because this is a murder mystery, they threw in a dead body or two. And this just continues the series. And I've had this. Yeesh, I've had this, and I have not got to it. Okay, so this and Stay and Fight by Madeline Fitch are right up there in the front. I sort of cleared the decks for a lot of my reading last night, so this will be... This mail haul will also be setting a TBR. Oh, fantastic. Oh, great. All right. This next one is from Penguin. I've mentioned this many times before. Penguin is doing a really nice series of a complete reprint, a complete retranslation with new cover art of the Maigret stories by Georges Simenon. And this is Maigret's Anger. Maigret is perplexed by the murder of a Montmartre nightclub owner until he uncovers a crime much closer to home that threatens his own reputation. I have read all of these when they came out in a mass market set probably 50 years ago. But they're, I think, partially constructed to be forgettable and to be interchangeable. So I've been having an enormously good time rereading this whole Penguin series. All with new translations. And these beautiful new covers. This translation is, I think they switch back and forth between two. This one's by William Hobson. Can't wait. Okay, so we are building a TBR here, because I'm not going to let that sit either. Those are just too good. Right, this next one is also likewise very thin. I hope it's not a duplicate of the Maigret book. That would be depressing. Oh no! No, it's not a duplicate. It's another one. It's a different one. This is Maigret and the Tramp. Look at how lovely that is. Isn't that wonderful? When a Paris tramp known as Doc is pulled from the Seine after being badly beaten, Maigret becomes obsessed with why someone would attempt to kill this mysterious figure. Okay, so 2 Maigret novels. I don't think I'll do both of them tonight. And this next one is also very thin. If it's a 3rd Maigret novel, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll have to pick. Oh, no. It is. Okay. It's not a 3rd. It's a duplicate of Maigret and the Tramp. Just a mistake, that's all. It's just a duplicate. All right, so now we get to the boxes, and they are marked Book Depository. But like everybody else, I love Book Depository. I love using the site. I think it's so much fun. And like I think a lot of the rest of you, I fall victim to one of its quirks. One of its quirks is that it does not charge you for shipping. No matter where in the world you are, there's no charge for shipping. Which means that they put it on an aux team. So you order the book, and then, a couple of years later, it arrives. So, I don't know, some of you are probably a lot more obsessive about this sort of thing than I am. In fact, I know you are, because you keep spreadsheets. But I myself just order, and I put something in my cart on Book Depository. I seriously ask myself if I want it. Because the Book Depository prices aren't always bargain. Most of them aren't. I have access to bargain, used bookstores. So I put something in my cart. I sleep on it, metaphorically speaking. I let it wait for a few days. I seriously think, and then I decide whether or not to hit buy. and then I do and just forget about it. And so there are 2 packages here, and that's what these are. So I have no idea what these could be, none whatsoever. So let's see. The first one is fairly thin, and one is fairly thick. Okay, what is this? A $100 wine voucher. What is that? A Naked Wines. Okay, all right, and there's a, okay. Oh, okay. All right, okay, great. This is Andre Asman, the author of Call Me By Your Name, and its upcoming sequel, which I think is titled Hollywood Cash Grab. This is Enigma Variations. And the reason I got it from Book Depository is because I hated the American cover. This cover has everything in the world going for it. And the American cover did not. The American cover was boring. This is a foreign, it's the French flaps and everything. This is, let's see here. This was from 2016? 2017. From a youthful infatuation with a cabinet maker in a small Italian fishing village, and a passionate yet sporadic affair with a woman in New York, to an obsession with a man he meets at a tennis court, Enigma Variations charts one man, and it's the author, one man's path through the great loves of his life. Paul's intense desires, losses, and longings draw him closer, not to a defined orientation, but to an understanding that heartache, like love, like low-grade fevers, like the longing to reach out and touch a hand across a table, is easy enough to live down. And I remember when I first read this, I thought, okay, well, you're not being brave enough to just make this a memoir, but it's pretty clear that you are mimeographing whole chunks of your life and exercising precious little in the way of authorial invention. And that annoyed me. And another thing about Asman's gay fiction annoyed me, which is it's sort of, I always want to say it's sort of sotto voce colonialism, but it's not really that. It's a condescension that's a little broader than colonialism, but it is all through most modern gay fiction. And it is the idea that I don't even know how to put it, that it's the idea that the world very much has Victorian social levels. And that part of the thrill, or all of the thrill, of a love affair is transgressing those social levels. When, in fact, that is an incredibly poncy thing to think in 2019. And is not the fuel for anything, for anyone who has any worth. Now, maybe Asman's idea is that he's just writing book after book after book after book after book about characters who have no worth. Maybe that is the case. I don't get that sense from the narrative, though. I get the sense that we're supposed to like some of these people. And I'm going to give this another... Now that I have it in a version that I want to keep it in, I'm going to give this another try. And I will do that fairly soon, although I can't prioritize all the things in here. And I'm curious to know what this next one is. I don't know when I'm going to use the wine voucher. I don't drink wine anymore unless I have company over. And nobody wants to come over and visit me because they hate me, because I smell. So I don't... This next package also has a wine voucher. I know $200 off wine from the Cold Wines Company. No idea who they are or... oh goodness gracious. Okay. All right, more Penguin editions. The first was Faber. Now I have 2 Penguin editions. There's another reason that I love Book Depository, because I can look at UK Penguin editions that I might want to keep. And the first one is definitely a case of that. I have had this book in I don't even know how many different editions. Most especially the ugly brown American mass market that was poorly made, so that the binding for the requisite inset of 20 black and white photos was part of the binding of the book, so that you couldn't look at the photos without ripping the book apart. So you had to hold it, tight, like a wooden breviary from the Middle Ages. I most especially had that. I read this book in a dozen of those mass market paperbacks, and then I've had hardcovers over the years and trade paperbacks. I finally saw one on Book Depository that is exactly what I want in terms of beauty, and it seems like in terms of the make. And this is a classic. It's Barbara Tuchman, The Guns of August. Only I really like this Penguin paperback. I really do. So I will be... Oh, look at that. Look at that. They make the Proud Tower and the Zimmerman Telegraph as well in this edition. That Proud Tower is very tempting. I don't think I have a copy of the Proud Tower. I'm in the rare minority, I think, with this author of thinking that the Proud Tower is a more enjoyable book than the Guns of August. But I love this book anyway. Just love it. I haven't read it in a long time, probably 15 years. So great. Fantastic. Book Depository coming through. And then this next one, I think it's just gorgeous, and I have not read this in, I don't even know. Do I want to know? Let's see. Do we have any kind of... Yeah, 1969. Wow. So that's a long time ago. That's 50 years. This is Gerald Durrell. This is his Corfu trilogy. So this has My Family and Other Animals, Birds, Beasts, and Relatives, and The Garden of the Gods. And I don't think I've ever read Garden of the Gods. I've read My Family and Other Animals a couple of times, but it was a long, long time ago. And this I thought was just lovely. So I grabbed it. Okay, great. Fantastic. All right, so that is our mail haul. A very interesting mixture here. Quite a few books. So we've got The Killer in the Carriage House. We've got This Land is Our Land, not exactly new, but I need to re-engage with it. Stay and Fight, a debut. Then another debut, Wyoming. Then Deepwater Blues by Fred Waitzkin. Seems like an illustrated novel. Missing Person by Sarah Loltz. What else we got here? Let's do these. The Enigma Variations by Andre Asselman. The Corfu Trilogy by Gerald Durrell in this lovely Penguin edition. The Guns of August by Robert Tuckman, also in a lovely Penguin edition. 2 Simonon novels by Maigret novels by Simonon, and a duplicate. Plus a ton of wine vouchers. I don't know what I'm going to do with. Because, like I was saying, if I don't have company, then I don't drink wine. For years and years, that wasn't true. But I don't do that anymore. I just have too much to do. I know that it's I followed the same pattern as so many other people did of my rough demographic, whatever that may be, where you start out with, well, I need a glass of wine to unwind at the end of the day, and then over years that turns into 2 glasses, and then 3, and then, well, I had a really rotten day, so I can forget about anything tonight except wine, and that might have been fine when I didn't have deadline work, but now I have a huge amount to do, and despite the best PR campaigns in the world, wine is inimical to writing. It's deadly to writing, no matter what. Every great writer in the history of the world who has ever said that they couldn't write without wine was lying. Well, either to themselves or to you. Mostly to you. If you read their letters, you realize they're lying to you. They're buying into the romance of it as a kind of self-justification for a drug addiction. What they really mean, what those writers really mean, is that they couldn't write without a hangover. And that I might believe, because you want some solace, and there are very few things in you that work when you're badly hungover. But one way or another, I have all these wine coupons now, so I'll have to see what I can do with them. I guess if I got some and just laid it away, then I wouldn't have to worry if guests came over. But either way, I have a chair full of books. That is very good. So I'm going to wrap this up for now. Make sure to tell me if this audio and visual is at least bearable. But either way, I'm going to wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.